Let's bring in Josh Blackman, professor at the South Texas College of Law, joining us from Houston. Josh, good to see you and appreciate your time. Hope you're continuing to keep safe. So, the 25th Amendment, Rude, that's been closed off. So, impeachment went through the House. No surprise there. Mitch McConnell saying the Senate, he will not reconvene the Senate any earlier than the 19th, which leaves just a day. Literally means we either don't have to worry about this before inauguration, or it just ratchets up the anticipation and the tension for what could potentially happen after the inauguration. What do you think will happen?
Well, I think it's clear we can't have an impeachment trial in one day. That's not going to happen. But there is some debate, and some scholars think that you can actually have a trial for an official who's out of office. So in theory, at least, the Senate Democrats could hold a trial for Donald Trump after Biden is sworn into office.
You know, this other idea of making sure the guy never is able to run for public office again, and the most immediate target, obviously, is 2024, right? Is that going to be sort of an easier ask over in the Senate because it requires just a simple majority rather than two-thirds?
Well, it's two steps. First, you have to convict, and that requires two-thirds. After you convict, you can then disqualify for future federal office, which requires only a simple majority. So you don't get to disqualify until you first convicted the president. So you need two-thirds initially, then the one-half comes pretty easily.
What do you think? I mean, we've been following the numbers. At last count, I think there's less than half a dozen Republicans who've publicly, overtly said they would vote for impeachment, to impeach the president. Over in the Senate, by my math, you would need at least 17 Republicans out of 100 seats to get this through. Are the votes going to be there, do you think?
You know, if the vote in the House is any signal, you're not going to have enough Republicans cross the line to vote to convict President Trump. So more likely than not, this will not lead to a conviction.
Josh, do the impeachment proceedings overshadow the stimulus talks?
Well, I think there's a huge issue because the Biden administration will become bogged down if you have an impeachment trial. That could take a full month out of the calendar. And if you remember from last year, the last impeachment, it was almost an around-the-clock affair. President Biden has tried to call on the Senate to have a bifurcated approach. In the morning, you do business. In the afternoon, you do impeachment. I don't know if there's consent to do that. If this is an urgent matter, the Senate may proceed to consider the articles, and this could be drawn out. So the risk is the longer you make this process, the more it might impact Biden's first 100 days.
And furthermore, the virus in the U.S. and on a global basis appears to be taking a turn for the worse. So can the Biden administration coordinate the virus fight back while at the same time drawing a line under what's being perceived as the worst excesses of the Trump administration? If we're talking about seeking full accountability, how far is the Biden administration willing to go?
Well, you know, I think this is out of Biden's hand. This is up to the Senate Democrats and the House managers. In our system, it's the Congress that drives impeachment, not the current president. So I think you have to decide how much will Speaker Pelosi and Leader Schumer, Majority Leader Schumer, want to put effort into this matter.
If Trump is impeached, isn't there a risk that it radicalizes his base and Trump becomes a martyr to the far right, and we see the body politic in the U.S. become even more polarized and even more destabilized?
Well, he was impeached today, and if he's convicted in a few weeks or a few months, it could lead to even further polarization. I don't know what comes of this. I understand people want to punish Trump for his misdeeds, and I get that sentiment. But in the long run, this may cause more bad than good. I don't know.
You know, Josh, we've been talking a lot about politics. Let's really try and drill down a little bit more into your space, which is the law. What are the prospects for going down? I mean, the 25th Amendment, that's water under the bridge now. Folks are trying impeachment. What about the 14th Amendment?
Well, Donald Trump has a way of making the most obscure parts of the Constitution great again. This is what he does quite well. The 14th Amendment was ratified back in 1868. Shortly after our Civil War. And there's a provision that says if you hold certain types of positions and you engaged in insurrection, you can't hold federal office. There's some argument, which I don't agree with, there's some argument that President Trump did engage in active insurrection, He sided with the enemy, which is, I guess, the rioters, and he loses his office. The House didn't really go down that road. They didn't try to hold him accountable to the 14th Amendment. I think that's just another obscure provision we can leave aside. We can put aside the 25th Amendment. We can put aside the 14th Amendment. We're stuck with this incitement insurrection claim. That's what we have left.
Joshua, I know it's a controversial issue, but are you getting any visibility on this issue of whether law enforcement was complicit in aiding and abetting what happened last week?
Or inside,
I've seen the same reports you have. I see the same reports you have. I have no idea if that's true. It's really, really disheartening.
Josh, back to the politics in the nitty-gritty. In the Senate, I mean, how likely is it that we'll see Republican leadership do as they did several hours ago over in the House, and that is take the party shackles off their own members and say, okay, guys, it's all right, you can vote your conscience. How likely is that to happen over in the Senate if and when it gets over there?
Well, I think the senators have more independence. There are not so many shackles. A lot of these senators will be up for primaries in a couple months, basically, and they may worry that if they vote against Trump, they can be primary from the right. But also, they vote for Trump, they might be defeated in the general election. So I think there are going to be some really tough choices, and I don't know how the politics shake out here. These are some really difficult decisions people have to make politically.
Absolutely.
Josh, we have to leave it there, so thank you very much indeed for that analysis. Joshua Blackman there of South Texas College of Law.